Don't even think about hosting on Airbnb unless you put these 4 smart home devices in your property. Otherwise, you'll be in for tons of headache and wasted time.
We are the Real Estate Robinsons.
What's up, everyone? If this is your first time here, I'm Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And we are real estate investors who quit our day jobs by investing in Airbnbs, and we're here to show you how you can do the same.
So we have 31 active Airbnb listings, and our portfolio did over 1.7 million in revenue last year, and yet we only spent a few hours actively managing our Airbnbs. We've built systems and processes to really help with this, but one big piece is what we put inside of our Airbnbs. And in today's video, we're going to show you the 4 smart home devices every Airbnb owner should have.
Now, if you guys want a list of all of these Airbnb smart home devices, plus all of our other household essentials that we put in our Airbnbs, then head over to the realestaterobinsons.com/shopping list, and you can pick up a free download with all that info. Now, first, let's talk, why do you need smart home devices? Well, because guys, it's 2024, and the beauty of hosting on Airbnb today is that there are so many tools that can automate a lot of those mundane tasks that used to make hosting on Airbnb time consuming and demanding. So if part of the reason that you're hesitant about buying your first or kind of scaling up to that next Airbnb is that you're worried that you won't have enough time, then this is a video for you.
Our first smart home device is a smart lock. Physical keys just suck. Nobody uses that anymore. Your guests have to mess around with the lock boxes to actually get the keys. Then they have to make sure they don't lose the keys while they're staying at your property. And last, they've got to remember to put the keys back when they check out.
We stayed at an Airbnb recently in Houston last year, and it was our first time staying at an Airbnb that didn't have a smart lock. And the lockbox was in this really hard to find place. It was like
a mission.
Yeah, it was tucked away in the parking garage, and it took us forever to check into the property, right? So don't use physical keys, because all those steps, they just leave a ton of room for mistakes, and it's honestly just kind of a crappy experience for your guests.
Very ancient style.
Yeah, smart locks are better because the guests just need to remember a 4-digit code to access the property. And side note, we usually set the code to be the last 4 digits of the guest's phone number, so it's even easier for them to remember the code.
Tip for you guys. So your guests don't have to worry about trying to open up a lockbox that's hidden somewhere at your property, and they don't have to worry about carrying the keys around with them while they're on vacation. That's super annoying and stressful, honestly.
Yeah. Now, there are tons of different smart locks out there. We use the Schlage or Schlage. Someone yelled at us in our videos recently. We use the Schlage on code, and it integrates with our property management software directly. Now, when we first started, we tried a few different smart locks, and the on code is still our favorite. And again, you guys can find a link to this exact lock on our Airbnb shopping list or down in the description below, but you can pick up the shopping list at the realestaterobinsons.com/shopping list.
In the same way that each guest gets a unique code, we also provide unique codes to our team members. So this really helps us keep track of who's coming in and out of our property at any given time.
So our cleaners have a code that's unique to them. Our maintenance teams have codes that are unique to them. And then we give ourselves unique codes as the owners as well.
Now, even though we're telling you to get a smart lock, it's still super important to keep physical key somewhere at the property. Even if you give the clearest instructions on using the smart lock, guests can still mess it up sometimes. And if a guest enters the wrong code too many times in a row, sometimes it'll disable your smart lock.
And at that point, you have to give your guests access to the property somehow, which usually means a physical key. So we typically stash a lockbox somewhere on the property, and then we only disclose that location if the guest actually needs it. Now, we know what you're probably thinking, right? The idea of having a unique code for every single guest sounds great, but the idea of creating a brand new code for each guest and then deleting it once they check out sounds like too much work. Well, the beauty of using a smart lock is that you can actually connect it to your property management software, and then anytime a booking appears in your property management software, your smart lock will automatically create a code for that guest, set the code to the last 4 digits of that guest's phone number, and make it activate on the day of their check-in and deactivate on the day of their check-out. Crazy, right? So every single guest gets a code that's super easy for them to remember without you ever lifting a finger.
Mind blowing. I know I'm not very tech savvy, so when I learned this, I was like, whoa. But before we had the system really dialed in, we had an issue where we were using the same code for different properties. So just a little quick backstory of why that's not a good idea to do. We have 2 properties on the same lot, pretty much, right? And we were using the same code for both houses.
Yeah, in retrospect, not a great idea.
Yeah, don't do that.
Right.
But anyways, we were trusting the guests would know which freaking house they rented and would only use that code for there. They wouldn't know that the code worked at both properties, right? So one guest booked for house A and ended up being nosy and walking over and checked in. Forgot to mention that. Then they walked over. That same code just so happened to open the door for property B.
So they just spread their stuff between both properties. And they're like, oh, we thought we booked both these houses together.
Yeah. And the only reason we found out is because the guest who really booked property B called us and was like, there's people staying here. And so don't do that. Learn from us.
Now, one thing that we've added to our daily routine is we always have our virtual assistant team triple check that a code actually generated for each guest. You know, we are using software that's talking to each other, and from time to time, we'll see an error happen where instead of the guest getting an actual check-in code, they'll just get a blank text. So every morning before we send our check-in codes, our VAs are making sure that all of the codes fired off correctly. It's a super simple check, but it saves us a lot of headaches and helps make sure we get a 5-star for the check-in experience.
And we send guests their check-in codes twice. So we send it to them 3 days before check-in, along with all of their other check-in instructions. And then we resend it to them the day of check-in to make sure they saw it.
And guys, it sounds like a small change, but it's been really helpful to make sure people aren't asking like, hey, what's my code? What's my code? What's
I never got my code. Yeah.
So we just sent it to them twice. Now, before we keep going, guys, if you're enjoying this video, please take 2 seconds, hit that subscribe button and the like button for this video. You know, we put a lot of work into making videos for you, so any support you can share would mean the absolute world to us.
Second, we're hosting another event. It's our big conference that we do once a year. We did it a couple times last year, but this year it's happening on June 23rd to the 25th in Denver, Colorado at the Gaylord Resort. It's called the STR Summit. Amazing speakers, Rob Abasolo, Amanda Hahn.
It's going to be a stacked speaker lineup, but the goal of this event, guys, is to teach you how to start, manage, and scale your own Airbnb business. We just closed on our first motel, our first commercial property. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to teach you all the stuff that you need to know. So if you're looking for the premier Airbnb event of the year, head over to strsummit.com. And if you use promo code WINNER, WINNER, you'll get a nice big fat discount. So head over to strsummit.com and we will see you guys in Denver.
Our second smart home device is a smart TV. When we bought our first Airbnb, we decided to pay for cable at the property. And after a while, we were like, what the heck? This is a waste of money. So most of our guests probably didn't have cable at their own homes. So why would they expect it once they came to our Airbnb, right? So we stopped getting cable at our listings and opted for smart TVs instead. So these come preloaded with all of the popular streaming apps like Netflix, Hulu, and so on. So when guests get to our property, they can just log in to their own accounts and pick up watching wherever they left off at home.
And this is a big one. There's less room for error when you do it this way. We had a lot of random questions about the cable boxes and the remotes at our cabin.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but people always got the remotes jammed and couldn't figure out the inputs. And it was honestly just like more headache than what it was worth. But with the smart TVs, there's literally only like 5 buttons on the remote.
Yeah.
So people can't mess things up the same way they can with those old school cable TV remotes. The brand we use for smart TVs is the TCL Roku Smart TV. Now you can pick up a 55-inch for less than $400, and they're almost always in stock. So it's a great price, ships fast, and has great picture quality for an Airbnb. But there's one feature that we really like about the TCL.
Our goal with management is trying to give our guests the best experience possible while also keeping our contact with them to the absolute minimum. So when you have 30 plus units, guests can't reach out to you for every little question or concern. And one small thing that kept popping up for us was our guests coming to our property, logging into their Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, and like 10 other streaming services, and then forgetting to log out before they left the property.
Then they'd have to reach out to us and say, hey, I forgot to log out of Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Paramount Plus, Peacock. Can you please log me out? So it's a small thing, but it still added unnecessary time to our cleaner's schedule. And it was an interaction with the guests that wasn't really needed. And honestly, even for the guests, it's not a great experience because they've got to take time out of their day to reach back out to us as the host. So it's like a lose-lose. But with the TCL, it's got a feature called guest mode. So when guests arrive at the property, the TV defaults to a screen letting them know that it's in guest mode. And before they can actually use the TV, they have to enter their checkout date and time into the TV. Once it's entered, the TV's ready to use and it's preloaded with all the popular streaming apps, and guests can add more during their stay if they like, but they can't make any purchases using your account. And the beauty is that once the date and time comes for them to check out, it automatically logs them out of all the streaming apps. Genius, right? And you can enable or disable guest mode remotely. So I can be at my home in California and turn on guest mode at our Tennessee cabin with the click of a button.
So freaking cool. Again, I'm not very tech savvy, but I was very impressed with this feature. Now, if you choose to go with another smart TV brand, a lot of them will make you create an account. Like we were buying an Amazon Prime TV at first, and we had to log in with an Amazon account to even make the TV work. So for TVs like that, make sure you enable a PIN or a code to prevent guests from renting movies and like buying other things under that account. And most importantly, remember that PIN, because a lot of times there's like a kid will accidentally
lock it or something.
Lock the TV, and then the next few guests are like, what's the PIN? And you're like, oh shoot, I created that PIN 2 years ago. So that's a headache too.
So now for us, whenever we're setting up a new property, we always keep track of those things. And we use like a Monday.com board now, but we always keep track of like the PIN for the TV, the lockbox code, like all those things that you need as you're setting the property up. And our third smart home device is a security camera. Cameras at Airbnb are a bit of a touchy subject. We've had some guests honestly complain about ours, and I've seen more than enough videos on social media where guests are sharing stories about cameras being found in kind of creepy places, but we still 100% believe that you should have cameras at your Airbnb, because as long as you do it the right way, cameras can provide some safety and peace of mind for you and for your guest. And there are really 3 reasons you should get a security camera. Reason number 1 is that you can prevent parties and large gatherings. So if someone booked your Airbnb and said it was a total of 4 guests, but you see 20 cars pulling into your driveway, you can stop things before they get out of hand and have proof to show Airbnb in case you need to reach out to them to get help with dealing with that guest.
Reason number 2 is safety. Cameras are also there for your guest safety. They can deter someone who otherwise might want to snoop around or maybe even break into the property if they know it's an Airbnb that's vacant from time to time, but the cameras let people know that they're being recorded.
And reason number 3 is that you can call your guest out on their BS. We had a guest once who claimed that they slipped and fell on our patio tile because the tile was too slippery.
Snakes.
Luckily, we were able to pull the camera footage from the backyard and saw that she'd been drinking, and she only fell because she literally went to go sit down and she missed her seat, right? So crisis avoided. So security cameras are an absolute must.
I picked that tile and I knew it wasn't slippery floor.
It was like outdoor tile. Now, again, you guys have a lot of options for security cameras. We personally go with the Ring floodlight security cameras on our single family homes, and we just use the Ring video doorbell for our arbitrage units. But make sure you go wired on all of those. Like, you don't want to have to deal with swapping out batteries or solar powered stuff. Just go wired on all those. You can pick up the floodlight for about $200 and the video doorbell for about $100. And there's a nicer version of the video doorbell for about $200 as well. If you guys can't tell yet, we love shopping on Amazon. It ships super fast. Things are pretty much always in stock, and prices are usually pretty competitive.
You do have to pay subscription to the Ring camera though. It's like $10 a month or something like that. And I think even less if you pay for the whole year upfront. But overall, it's well worth the price for $200 and $10 per month. Now, let's talk about camera location. First, be sure to disclose the location of your cameras. So Airbnb rules on camera placement are pretty clear. You can't have any hidden cameras. You can't put cameras in bedrooms, bathrooms, or sleeping areas. Please don't do that. That's really weird. You have to list all of the locations of your security cameras and the quantity, even if they're not turned on. So we got burned on that last one this past summer. We had a guest who checked into a property where we have security cameras at the front and back doors. They complained about the one in the backyard and asked us to turn it off. We said no, so they called Airbnb and complained. So then Airbnb ends up shutting down our entire listing because, get this,
we have very clearly stated in our listing that we have an exterior security camera, but because we said camera instead of cameras, they said we were wrong in the situation. They shut our listing down while they completed an investigation. So make sure you list the locations and the exact quantities of your cameras.
And it wasn't even in a weird location. Don't think we're weirdos. It was literally in
the backyard. The property sits on like 2.5 acres and there's no fencing. So it's literally just like open to whoever drives
like
down that road.
For your safety, bro.
Yeah, so we just have cameras back there because we want to make sure that nothing happens.
But whatever.
Yeah.
People are weird. Quick note on the Ring camera. Say that you're buying a property that already has a Ring camera on it. Make sure you transfer ownership before you close. Don't forget to do that. Otherwise, it's a major pain in the ass to get access to the camera. That happened to us on one of our properties, and we had to track down the seller after we closed so she could accept the transfer request on the camera. So super annoying.
And just last thing on cameras, here's another situation where it saved us to have these security cameras. We had a guest who checked into one of our properties, and this was, I think, a few months ago as well. And they checked in, they're like, hey, looks like someone left some white residue on the counter, and there's some trash here. Like, looks like your cleaners maybe missed some stuff. And they sent us photos, and it literally looked like cocaine on the countertops. Like, we're pretty sure that's what it was.
No, 100% it was.
Yeah. So we ended up checking the cameras, and the property had been vacant for almost an entire day because the guest checked out on Tuesday morning, and then that next guest checked in on Wednesday afternoon. So we had a little over 24 hours where it was unoccupied. And some homeless dude, we saw him on the camera, ended up hopping our fence, broke into the lockbox, found our lockbox location, and then spent the night in the property and did drugs and who knows what else. And when we saw that, we were immediately freaked out because oh my God, this guy might have the key still. Yeah. So we were able to get that guest out of the property. We moved into another property that we had open. And we ended up rekeying the existing property, new location for the lockbox, added an additional security camera because we didn't have one in the backyard there, which is where he broke in at, and just really kind of reinforced our security measures. So there are times when having those cameras can make sure that both you and your guests can stay safe.
I just want to point out what you said again. It was vacant for 24 hours max. And that happened to us. Imagine if you have a property that sits, for several days, a week. Scary. So cameras are very, very important. But before we keep moving, we have a totally free download for all of our subscribers. If you head over to therealestaterobinsons.com/calculator, we've created a free tool that helps you analyze properties you're considering purchasing as an Airbnb.
And if you prefer some more hands-on guidance getting your first Airbnb up and running, we'd love to talk with you about our Airbnb mentorship program, Alpha Host Academy, right? Alpha Host Academy. Now, we've helped countless students launch their Airbnb business, and we'd love for you to be next. We'll help you choose your market. We'll help you become a pro at analyzing deals. We'll show you how we set up our properties. We'll show you how you can manage 30 plus properties at scale and how we do with only a few hours of time every single week. We'll give you a framework for all of that. You get one-on-one coaching, group coaching, on-demand content, done for you deal analyzer, and so much more. So guys, it's a free 15-minute call. Head over to alphahostacademy.com, talk with our team, and we'd love to see you inside.
So our fourth and final smart home device is a noise detector. First, be sure to check the Airbnb regulations for your city because some towns actually require that you have a noise monitoring device installed inside of your Airbnb. But even if it's not a requirement, it's still a really good choice to add this in. And there are really three main reasons you need one of these inside of your Airbnb.
Now, first is that you can prevent parties. If keeping your Airbnb safe from a raging party is important to you, noise monitors are one of the best ways to do this, right? Unless someone's throwing like a silent disco party, any other type of party is going to be loud, and your noise monitor will notify you whenever those noise levels stay above a certain threshold for more than 10 minutes. And if that happens, now you can reach out to the guests and figure out what's going on and get them to keep the noise down.
Second, you can avoid any fines or penalties from your cities. In some cities, you can actually be fined if a neighbor complains about your Airbnb and has a valid concern about noise. So with a noise monitor, you can catch the noise issue and address it before your neighbors get annoyed enough to complain to the city. And third, you can avoid pissing off your neighbors.
There's always a possibility that your neighbor will hate you for no reason other than you put an Airbnb next to their home. And some neighbors can absolutely be Karens who have the time to make your life a living hell as an Airbnb host. They can call the cops when you're Airbnb. They can complain to the city. They can harass your guests. So keeping on your neighbor's good side is a must, and keeping the noise down is an easy way to do that.
Before we started using the noise monitor, one of our Airbnbs actually had its permit suspended because a neighbor complained that our guests were being too loud. We fought with the city for a couple of months before being able to list that property again. So super frustrating, but we literally lost money on this property all because we had some noisy, annoying guests.
So learn a lesson from our mistake and get that noise monitor. Now, the brand that we use for noise monitors is Minute. That's spelled M-I-N-U-T. Again, we'll drop a link below, or you guys can grab it from our shopping list. But Minute is great because it can automatically message your guests whenever they get too loud, in addition to the app notifying you. Yeah. And again, you can pick up that Minute through Amazon as well.
So the way it works, it looks like a smoke detector almost, so no one would really even know what it is, so it's mounted on the ceilings or a wall, and it measures the decibel noise inside of the property. And you can set that number to
like the decibel threshold.
Right.
To whatever number you feel makes the most sense.
Yeah, so whenever it surpasses that decibel level, it'll send a notification to our cell phones, and then we will reach out to those guests and say, hey, we got a notification that it's too noisy. Please be mindful of the time or your noise level. And guests are usually pretty good after.
And what we usually really say is not even that we got a notification. We'll just blame it on the neighbors. We'll say, hey, the neighbors reached out and said you're being a little bit too loud. Would you mind keeping it down?
Yeah. And most people are respectful, but yeah, that's how the noise monitors work.
Now, in terms of where to actually place the noise monitor, you should put it in places where a large group of people will most likely hang out. So we typically put ours inside the living room, mounted to the ceiling, usually in a location the guest can't reach without a ladder. But say a guest did somehow remove the device, you can actually get a notification immediately when that happens, so you can reach out to the guests and ask what's going on. And if you have other places where guests might be noisy, like a game room or even outside on your backyard patio, whatever it may be, you can add noise monitors there as well. Now, just like security cameras, you have to follow the same rules in placing your noise monitoring devices. So no private places like bedrooms or bathrooms.
Well, that's it for today, guys. But before we go, please be sure to connect with us on Instagram. I'm at Sarah Rad Robinson. My sexy husband is at Tony J Robinson. And if you're on TikTok, make sure to follow us on there. We share a little bit more about our personal life, but we are at the Real Estate Robinsons.
And again, guys, if you liked what you heard in this video and really want to take your Airbnb business to the next level, book a free call with our team to learn more about Alpha Host Academy at alphahostacademy.com. Hope you guys got a lot of value from today's video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. That's it for today, guys. I'm Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And we are
the Real Estate Robinsons.